The Indiana General Assembly session began this week, and Governor Eric Holcomb used his State of the State address to urge lawmakers to support his ambitious, expensive agenda. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Brandon Smith reports on Holcomb's second-to-last address to the Indiana General Assembly.
Holcomb proposes spending $5.5 billion new dollars in the budget on programs and initiatives that span education, public health, and economic development. In trying to sell that to lawmakers, he repeatedly emphasized the impact it could have and brought a personal touch. For instance, highlighting a parent who paid about $630 in textbook fees this year.
Let's cover the full cost of curriculum fees paid for by parents so that folks like Mandy don't have to pay this dreadful bill ever again starting the next school year.
There was a new announcement. The state will award grants to help build the longest trail in Indiana, more than 60 miles of an old rail line in southern Indiana.
Another great example of the state helping meet the demand to explore and discover in Indiana, right in our backyards.
Holcomb is asking lawmakers for another $75 million this year for trails and land conservation. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
Legislative leaders of both parties were largely supportive of many of Holcomb's priorities. One of the biggest sticking points with fellow Republicans seems to be his plan to provide free textbooks to all K-12 public and charter students.
Whether or not we can get to that with the textbooks is something we'll talk about in our caucus, and I'm sure the House will as well.
Republicans seemed more supportive of an unprecedented infusion of funding for Indiana's public health system, but House Speaker Todd Houston cautioned that lawmakers will look not just at dollars, but outcomes. Senate Democratic leader Greg Taylor was struck by what he didn't hear in the governor's speech.
We still have people who can't afford housing and who can't afford child care costs. It's time to take a look at households and not just businesses.
Now, in a statement, House Democratic leader Phil Giaquinta rejected what he called Holcomb's rosy assessment of the state and said Democrats stand ready to improve Indiana.